Welcome to the Daily Catechism, a web-based program that aims to answer the following question: what is the Catholic Church all about? Now, in yesterday's episode, we saw that the early apostles were on a mission from God, sort of like Jake and Elwood Blues and the Blues Brothers. Maybe. Although it's worth pointing out that the Blues Brothers has a special place to play in the hearts of many Catholics, and the Vatican newspaper, L'Osservatore Romano, actually recently declared it to be a Catholic classic. Worth noting. In any event, the apostles have a mission, and we have a mission. And the Catechism says this about our part. Those who, with God's help, have welcomed Christ's call and freely responded to it, are urged on by love of Christ to proclaim the good news everywhere in the world. This treasure, received from the apostles, has been faithfully guarded by their successors. All Christ's faithful are called to hand it on from generation to generation by professing the faith, by living it in fraternal sharing, and by celebrating it in liturgy and prayer. Now, the Catechism talks here of the good news, and the good news is in fact Christ himself. Christ is sent with a message, and that message is that by allegiance to Christ we will be brought back into unity with God the Father. So Christ is the message and is the good news, both at the same time. The Catechism also talks about the need for us to accept that good news, and it makes three important points about that acceptance. First, our acceptance needs to be free. It can't be manipulated or coerced. And this is very important when, later in the discussion, we'll talk about what the Catechism has to say about conscience and about freedom of religion. Second, our response has to be a lived response, and it has to be a response that is lived in community. The Catechism talks of fraternal sharing to indicate just what a familial idea the concept of church is for the Catholic Church. Third, the Catechism points out that it needs to be lived also in liturgy and in prayer, because these are special forms that our relationship with God takes. These 3 points that the Catechism makes really reiterate the entire structure of the Catechism, as we'll see as we go on through further discussions. The Catechism starts with a discussion of faith and our free acceptance of the message, and it goes on to talk about the way that faith is lived out in liturgy, in prayer, and in the moral life. Now, that message is given to us by the early apostles, and it's passed down from generation to generation. If the message was lost, the mission would fail. And so we can say, no message, no mission. But it's also true that if the message deteriorated in quality, if there was message failure of the sort that we always find in human communication and in human communities, then again, the mission would be in jeopardy. And so the entire church is called to pass on that message with great fidelity, and we're given special promises by God also that we'll be able to do that. In the next few discussions, the Catechism will be talking about how that message is passed on and what our part is to play in spreading that good news. For now, that's today's episode of the Daily Catechism. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you soon.